Luz, is this guy bothering you?
No.
Are you sure? Because it looks like he's leaning.
Thank you. See?
I'll be right over here if you need me.
Okay, thank you very much.
I know karate.
A hopelessly romantic Chicago Transit Authority ticketed booth operator, I'll get it out, is mistaken for the fiance of a comatose patient. I got no jokes for this one. This is one of the most important films of my entire life. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. It's While You Were Sleeping, the 1995 romantic comedy, the movie that made me realize I like girls. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Extras and Epilogues on the Podzilla 1985 network. My name is Seanan Young. It feels like it's been about a month since we've done this, even though I think we did one last week, didn't we? Or did we not do one last week?
No, we didn't. Last week was going to be What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and we didn't get to it.
No. Last week was going to be What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Well, God.
Yes, I was going to say. That's what I said, yes, once. Also, I was really hoping that the joke for this when you said the title was going to be Coma Guy, considering that was the original title for the movie.
I did not realize that. I saw that in the notes, and I thought that was very, very funny. Yep. Not sure you should be on this show tonight. This is a love show with the rage filled with your inside of your heart right now. I don't know if...
Well, no, you see, the rage has been channeled into the internet that now properly flows through my house for the first time in a week.
What an age! What an age we live in. My name is Seanan Young. I'm going to be your host tonight. This is E&E. Welcome back. The theater is open once again. With me, of course, let me introduce my co-host for the evening, Mr. Hunter Hendricks.
Hi. I wish I could remember quotes from this movie. I watched it yesterday, and normally that's what I do here. But yes, it's been a very rage-filled couple of days for me, so I'll just say it was While You Were Sleeping.
And the queen of While You Were Sleeping, Lindsay Wolfgang. All right.
Lindsay Wolfgang. All
right.
I'm not the queen of it, but spoiler alert, I love this film.
Here's we just watched it. Literally just finished watching it. I am actively trying to get my brain back into speaking mode. I blew my nose for about 10 minutes straight. My eyes hurt from crying. I'm just going to say it up front.
Oh my God.
2 thumbs up and beyond. I'm just going to spoil it right now. We'll get to the actual ratings in a minute. But I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding when I said this. When I was a kid, because this movie came out in 1995, I was 13 when this movie came out. And I remember seeing the trailers for it. I remember renting it. Or maybe my parents rented it because I don't think I had an interest in films like this. But I fell so in love with Sandra Bullock in this film. I have joked since the beginning. Anyone that's known me, I've always joked that Sandra Bullock in While You Were Sleeping is the reason I ever wanted to fall in love. I always say it's the reason I like girls. No, it's the reason I ever wanted to fall in love. Because it's also part of the problem, though. No one should watch this film, ever. Nobody should watch this film. Because it creates an unrealistic of bar for any woman to surpass, because Sandra Bullock in this film, they say Sandra Bullock at one point in life was like America's sweetheart. You know, she was like the it girl. And this movie, I think, you can watch this movie and see why. I think even if you don't like this film, Sandra Bullock is so charming in this movie.
She is so fucking adorable in this film.
It's disgusting. I rewatched this for the first time in probably 20 years tonight. And I thought maybe I would have a different view on it, much like we did with Dog Soldiers a couple of months ago. You and I and Kaz, all three of us really loved Dog Soldiers.
Oh.
Now, Hunter and I thought we did. Hunter and I haven't discussed how we felt about this movie yet. But I don't think anything will ever, even if Hunter hates this movie, nothing's going to ever match the disappointment we had with Dog Soldiers. And
that was as bad as it got, man.
That's as bad as it gets.
It'll ever get that worse.
And
that bad again.
I was a little worried going into this movie that I was going to feel the same way. Not that I would hate it, because this movie is done much better. Even just on a technical level, this movie's done much better. but I thought maybe the jokes would be corny, the romance would be corny. Maybe I would not find the same adoration that I had for it when I was 13 years old or 14, however old I was when I watched it. And I can say without question, like, I absolutely still love this movie. This is, I don't watch a lot of romantic comedies. With the history that I've had with romance, I tend to avoid anything that has love or romance in it because it just makes me feel bad. And this didn't really make me feel bad. It did make me very teary-eyed, and I think it's unfair to compare this to an actual romance because this is not generally how it goes. I said to Lindsay as we watched it, if this was today and it was a real thing and not just a film, you've got this many older white people with money in the room together talking at Christmas. One of them is going to bring up the border crisis or talk about how at least Donald Trump keeps his promises. There's no way these people are this sweet all the time.
I promise you, none of them is getting a cordless glue gun for Christmas. I couldn't get over that in that scene. I think it's Peter Boyle has a cordless glue gun in his lap, and I was like,
he does.
Okay, all right, that's what he. I mean, I guess he sells estate. He does estate sales of furniture, so. Maybe he needs it for repairs.
Sure.
I don't know what you're repairing with a glue gun.
It was from Uncle Albert that he didn't know who Uncle Albert was.
It's true. They did say, look, who the hell's Uncle Albert?
I can say I've only been invited to I've only been invited into two families. That's Lindsay's family and a different family. We shall remain nameless. And,
not true. You're part of ours. There's just two of us.
Oh, I meant through romance. I meant through romance. I haven't romanced you.
Okay. All right. Fuck you. I see how it is.
Damn it. Yeah, he'll come back. There he is.
I didn't actually leave. I just turned the camera.
So I've never had dinner table discourse like this with Lindsay's family. No offense to them if they're listening. And the other family, it was in a way, there was a lot of joking, but it wasn't the same. This doesn't happen in real life.
Often at your expense, or
that was with Lindsay's family. I was the mutt of the group. That is true. It is such a sweet film, and I know I'm gushing over it and have you talked about the stats. Let's talk about the stats before we talk about the movie. Released April 21st, 1995. This, I believe, was the beginning of the Sandra Bullock of hysteria, because if I remember correctly, boy, she really was it. Between this and Speed and then The Net, she did so many just back-to-back movies where she was the it thing. And she's always good in every movie she's in, but to me, this will always be the movie that I associate with her, even more than Speed. Even though she also plays a very adorable character in Speed, this movie was, to me, this is pinnacle Sandra Bullock. But it's not just Sandra Bullock. Directed by some guy, probably. No, it's directed by John Turteltaub. I'm sorry, I don't want to take it away from him. Also,
right. I was looking to see because I couldn't remember what. So she actually, weirdly enough, she did Demolition Man before this.
I didn't realize Demolition Man was
93. Oh yeah, and it's 93.
And she was adorable in that too. I'm now offended by her and Sylvester Stallone though at a romance. I don't like that.
Speed was also before this. I thought Speed was after this, but it's not. Speed was 94. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
well, then that would be why Speed was the first thing I probably remember seeing her in then.
Yeah, I she definitely was in that with Keanu first.
I saw Demolition Man before any of these because that is the kind of movie that I was into, was Demolition Man. So
and then it's weird. It takes a while because I didn't look into this when I looked at it. It takes a while for her to get back to. I mean, she does 2 If by Sea in 96.
Right.
And then Love and War number 9.
Love Potion number 9 was way before that, 92.
Yeah, that was an early one.
Yeah, that felt like an 80s movie the first time I saw that. I remember thinking that was weird that it was in the 90s. But then it takes her until, if you want to count 99's Forces of Nature, but like 2000, she did 28 Days. And then Miss Congeniality, and she does all those kinds of movies like back to back to back there for a while. 2 Weeks Notice, The Lake House, all of that comes out in the mid.
I love 2 Weeks Notice.
There was another one that she was. I don't remember the name of it. It was her and Samantha Mathis, and they were country singers. I really liked that one too, and I can't remember the name of that one.
Gosh, that feels like it was way later. I think I know the one you're talking about.
That was like, to me, Sandra
not
Bullock.
Hope Floats.
No,
right? It's not.
No.
You're not talking about Hope Floats.
No. Keep going. I'll tell you.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna have to back up then, because there's 2 If by Sea, A Time to Kill. These are all in the 90s.
Cross reference that with Samantha Mathis.
Hang on. Why don't I just do that? Sandra Bullock, Samantha.
Because they were both of them. Like I was so in love with both of them, and I still am.
It's called The Thing Called Love.
The Thing Called Love. There it is.
Came out in '93. That was right before Demolition Man. I should have known because her character's name, Sandra Bullock's character's name. Do you remember it?
No.
You said she's a country singer, right?
Yeah.
Linda Lou Linden.
There it is. That's triple L. But hey, enough about Sandra Bullock. It's not just Sandra Bullock in this film. There's actually a good cast, a great cast, including Bill Pullman, who's also one of my absolute favorite actors. You remember him from Independence Day, The Grudge. He's a fantastic actor. Spaceballs.
Yes.
That's the first thing I remember him from, and I remember later realizing, holy shit, that was Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know my favorite bit of trivia about that movie too, that is something I also didn't recognize until way later, was that Mel Brooks talked, I'm on a tangent now, Mel Brooks talked to George Lucas about parodying Star Wars, and one of Lucas's main things was you can't dress your hero, because he talked about how he had a Han Solo type hero, not really a Skywalker, but he's like, you can't dress him like Han Solo, and Mel Brooks goes, got it, and then he dressed him like Indiana Jones.
Yep.
And he said as much. He's like, if you think he looks like Indiana Jones, there's a reason for that.
That's why. Yes.
Also starring Peter Gallagher, fantastic actor. Love Peter Gallagher. He's so good in this too. All of them are. And literally, top to bottom, I don't think there was a single person in this cast I didn't like.
Not to give anything away, but they got me hooked. I'm not often gotten by movies anymore. The ending of What's Eating Gilbert Grape got me. We didn't get to talk about it on the show, but I didn't expect it. Like, I usually can kind of guess where story beats are going. It's part of what I do for a living to some degree. And the Peter Gallagher character, Sarah, I said something earlier. I'm like, this poor guy. And Sarah has also seen this movie a million times, and she goes, don't you feel bad for him? And I went, what? No. She goes, I've said too much. Wait, I'm like, okay. The poster is Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman. Like, I know where this is going sooner or later. But
how do we get there?
As soon as he wakes up and starts talking, I mean, actually, Peter Gallagher does some incredible face acting in this movie.
Yes, he does.
He wakes up and his expression, and I went,
he's such a doofus.
Kind of a dick. Yeah. He's not really a jerk, but like he's definitely not going to be what he was cracked up to be.
Yeah, because they set him up as like the dream guy. I mean, she very much speaks, and the whole opening scenes where she gives him his token or whatever, or he gives her a token and walks in, and she's banging her head on the desk, like building it up as, wow, what an amazing guy. This is the guy you fall in love with. Right. And then reality hits and you realize that the poster boy isn't what you thought he was.
And that's the subversion.
I commented is who carries photos of themselves in their wallet.
There were hints.
But that's the subversion. Yeah, I should have seen that coming all along, and looking back on it, I go, no, they hooked me the same way she's hooked as a character. As all I've been told about this guy is he's the greatest guy ever. Yeah. While I know not a damn thing about him.
Also starring Peter Boyle. Peter Boyle's fantastic. Jack Warden. Jack Warden's fantastic.
Always funny.
One guy that I don't know who he played, and in rewatching the film, I thought, oh, this is going to be an annoying character. There's always one annoying character. It's the neighbor, Jack Jr. Or no, not Jack Jr.
Joe Jr.
Joe Jr.
Joe Jr.
Yeah.
There's too many J's.
But by the end of the film, I was like, I didn't hate him, and I thought he was funny.
Look, he just wanted to try on women's shoes.
He just wanted to try on women's shoes. No,
that was such a weird bit, but it was still funny.
My foot fell into it.
Get out of here.
So it's 103 minutes. It's a little over the sweet spot, but not too far. And for this film, I don't mind because every second of this film oozes charm.
Yeah.
It's not a comedy. It's not a horror movie. Pretty much anything outside of that is almost always going to need a little more time to establish itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't feel like there was much in the way of waste. I don't want to say any, but much in the way of waste and motion here. There were definitely some scenes I thought, you could have pared that down a little bit. But for the most part, everything was necessary to keep the story moving.
Yeah, so. and I thought they did very well. Critics agreed. Budget versus box office, $17 million budget versus $182 million to the box office. It's a bona fide hit. Critical reception, 80% critical approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, average review of 6.4 out of 10. Metacritic score of 67 out of 100. Fuck you. Cinema score of A on an A plus to F scale.
So hang on, those are basically the same thing. And importantly, a lot of the critical reception there is just, it's a little paint by numbers.
Sure.
The the cinema score is, and I mean, anything labeled romantic comedy is going to get some version of that.
Sure.
Unless you're the original, like
Right.
When Harry Met Sally, or you do something completely out of nowhere that works.
Yeah.
The cinema score is the audience one, and that's the more realistic of what we're going to get into, and that's the A. That's the A on the A to F scale. Not A+, but like right underneath it. And then Roger Ebert, I mean, as a critic, I know you were getting to it, kind of goes on and says what we were just talking about. 3 out of 4 stars, and I'll let you get in there.
It's a feel-good film, warm and good-hearted, and as it was heading for its happy ending, I was still a little astonished how much I was enjoying it. And I agree with that. Like, again, romantic comedies are not my thing. When you said rom-com February, I went, and,
like, do we have to?
but Hunter has...
Yes, it's February.
Yes, and Hunter has suffered through many films with me, so I wanted to do what he wanted to do.
I have seen a lot of this kind of stuff. I will say, before we get into talking about it, I had never seen this movie. I don't know how I missed it, but I had never seen this one.
Love it.
But I feel like in the late 90s on into the early 2000s, it was either like once we started watching more movies at home, once we got satellite, and my mom liked to watch these kinds of movies, or then like, once you get into high school and these are the kind of movies you go see, when you're going out with people, like I started to see more of these things. So I feel like I've seen more from that point on. This one was like right before I would have been making a point to go. Cause I mean, in 95, I was 10, unless this was on TV or like it was a family thing. I'm not going to sit through this. It's not.
And that's how I watched it. It was on one of the TV movie channels or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how I saw it. It was just on one day and I watched
Whether it was on Stars or Encore or something. And my mom was like, "Oh, this is a good movie. Watch this." And like, yes, you're right. This is a good movie.
It is. And what really gets me about this film is that it's unrelentingly sweet. Like in a lot of romantic comedies, there's some edge to it, or there's some like stupid jokes or some out of this world thing. This movie was so grounded, and it really relied on Sandra Bullock's charm to pull this film through. And it worked and it's not just her. Bill Pullman is also exceptionally charming in this movie and handsome. My biggest issue I have with the film, with the character of Sandra Bullock's character, Lucy, is that they present a woman that is as sweet as she is, as nice as she is, as pretty as she is, and they present her as someone who has no friends and no hope for a boyfriend. Bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm
Maybe
calling
she's
bullshit
very
on
introverted.
That. Sure.
I mean,
sure.
You do. She's not wrong. You do get a little bit of the hint that like
she's very closed off.
The first time that she talks, actually it's 2 scenes. The first time that she talks to Peter while he's in the coma, when she goes back to the hospital room, and she talks about like, I always thought I would have, the house, the family, and don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I got an apartment, I got a cat. You get the idea that she thinks these are basically the same thing.
Yeah. Like
she has convinced herself that these are the same thing. So maybe she's not going after what she wants. And then that gets taken further in that first night that she hangs out with, is it Jack? I think Bill Pullman's character.
Jack, yeah.
The first night that she hangs out with Jack, and they're on the walk, and it's especially when they're by the waterfront, and she starts talking about, lost my mom, lost my dad. My dad always wanted us to go places and do things, and pretty much from the time that he was gone, I stopped. I mean, he doesn't say it explicitly, but he's kind of getting at like, do you think that's what he would want? Like, that was always the move. You were going to keep going and doing, and when he stopped, you stopped. I don't think that's what he would want for you, which is heavy shit for a first conversation.
Well, okay, and go ahead. But
what I was going to say, I mean, it's not that she doesn't have prospects. It's that she doesn't want any of them, because even if they were good prospects, they don't fit into the plan. They're all a way of getting out of what she's currently doing, which is easy and safe.
So this movie hits especially different for me now, because when I watched this movie originally, both my parents were alive. I was starry-eyed and hopeful about the future and finding the perfect girlfriend and stuff like that. Watching this now, I think I went into this going, okay, what's going to make me feel bad about this is the fact that it's Sandra Bullock. This was, no offense, ladies, this was my idea of the perfect woman. And it still is, for the record. Sandra Bullock, after watching it again, Sandra Bullock in this film, she's sweet, she's quirky, she's just smart, she's everything you could ever want in somebody. But the part that really got me now, 20 years later, with I lost my parents, my mother passed away, my father passed away, I have no family, like blood family. I'll stop saying I have no family, because there are clearly people that I love and that love me. but I don't have any blood relatives except for Kaz. He's out in California, but no parents, no uncles and aunts that I can hang out with that will pat me on the back and say, when are you going to meet a nice girl or anything like that. So the scene at the end, I know we're skipping way ahead, but I just want to get it out now. The scene at the end where she objects to her own wedding immediately, which was funny. And then goes on to the speech about how she never had parents and she was so happy to be invited to this family because she hadn't had it so long. That hit me exceptionally hard because I know that feeling. When I was dating people here and otherwise, and I was in that family room, that was stuff that I hadn't had in years, and I haven't had in years at this point. Talking to family, talking about the future, stuff like that's all, to me, it feels like a lifetime ago. So to see her go through that again and to be invited to something that meant so much to her, especially knowing that it was a con, basically, like that got me. That got under my skin. That scene in particular, when they started crying and she started crying, I started crying. I'm sitting there bawling next to Lindsay. And
you weren't bawling. You just had tears down your your cheeks.
No, I was bawling. I was sucking it in as hard as possible. I have never tried.
I didn't hear any of it.
I have never tried to hide my cries as much in this movie. The closest I could think of was in Ghostbusters Afterlife when Egon pops up the first time, and I'm like, okay, time to suck it up.
Don't do it.
This movie got to me that much.
I assumed when you were talking about that, it was going to be the Christmas scene early on, because what a good little bit of cinematography. John Turteltaub and whoever else was behind that camera. That scene, and we were talking about it earlier, where everyone's opening the gifts and who's Uncle Al and all that.
Yeah,
it's that, but it's also if there's a scene in the movie that shows you they know what they've got with Sandra Bullock, it's that. Because so much of that
she
scene
just sits there watching.
Could have been shot, with two different... It could have been shot with her and with them on completely different sound stages, and I would believe 100% that she's a good enough actress that they could have been describing what was happening, and that's just her reacting.
Yeah.
So much of that is cutting away from the family to her and literally just her reactions, and it lingers on her for so long. You were talking about earlier, like, her coming across as this really, charming, explosive element on the screen, I guess implosive, because it's not really out there.
It's just subtle, but it's so it's so adorable.
That to me is the epitome of what you're talking about. Everything that she does there is, I suspect anyway, I don't know this, but every bit of that is calculated, and not one of a bit of it looks that way.
Yeah.
You can tell that she's in control of everything that she's doing, and yet you'd never know if you didn't know how good an actress she was.
There are so many romantic comedies, and there are so many comedies in general that some work, some don't. There are, especially if you're talking about women in romantic comedies, because people don't always remember the men, but the women are always remembered for them. And I could think of a couple just off the top of my head. Julia Roberts is always great in romantic comedies. I think Reese Witherspoon is really good. But Sandra Bullock in this film especially is on a whole other level. Like, there were times where she kind of reminded me of Mandy. If Mandy didn't cuss every other word and also didn't scream. But
a quieter Mandy.
There's that control we're talking about.
Right. But even when she gets mad, it's not over the top. When she's being sweet, it's not over the top. Like, none of this felt forced. It all felt so natural. And I think that is just a testament to how good she is as an actress. And I could see why America fell in love with her. And, I never really kept up with her career after probably the 90s and 2000s. Not because I thought she was bad. It's just my life went a different direction. I started getting really involved in the horror scene, and that became the movies I watched. I don't watch romantic comedies anymore. I haven't watched a romantic comedy since Allie. I mean, she and I used to watch romantic comedies all the time because she wanted to watch them, and I watched it because she did. But generally, I don't pick them. I don't pick romantic comedies. I don't like them. I don't want to see them. I generally just
watch them by myself.
You watch anime romance, which is completely different and tentacled. And I don't.
It's not true. That is a different genre, sir, and I do not watch that genre. Thank you.
As an example, some of the ones that I watched recently, like in the past with people that I've watched, movies like The Fault in Our Stars, movies like is it Paper Town? Is that what it's called, Paper Towns?
I haven't watched
It's
either
a
of those.
yeah, it's a follow, not a follow up, but it's from
Same
the same
author. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Looking
girl-
for Alaska, same deal.
The girl dies at the end, stuff like that. Like these romantic comedies that like were good and I really enjoyed them. But it's not this, man. There's something special about this movie. I can't describe it as any way other than special. All the jokes to me were, if they weren't funny, they were at least endearing. The characters were charming. They don't make movies like this anymore. There's a reason this movie
really
has stuck
don't.
with me so much. They just don't make them like they used to, you know?
My one criticism that I will levy, you said a minute ago that it didn't feel forced, and I know you were talking about Sandra Bullock, and I agree. Everything that she does is very natural on screen.
Yeah.
I did feel like one thing I noticed early on, and Sarah goes, only you would notice this, and I'm like, yeah, probably. The scene transitions in this movie are almost exclusively fade to black pickup, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, it's shot like it's made for TV in a way. Like they inserted commercial breaks early on, and then I went, no, it's shot like a sitcom. This is like a sitcom.
Yeah, I can see that.
This is like an extended sitcom plot, basically. This is like 6 or 7 or 8 episodes of a season of a sitcom.
Yeah.
What we would now call a season, because that's all you ever get in a fucking show anymore. But for a while there, that was like, a fourth of a season. Anyway, and that in and of itself is not a criticism, but the overall, the plot's a little tropey. Like at times, I mean,
it's 100% tropey. Yeah,
right. They do a lot with it, and the acting and the dialogue all elevate a lot of that. But and weirdly enough, of all the other things, to notice the score. The score was a little like it was
odd.
It was a little circusy. I thought that was kind of a strange choice.
Yeah,
I feel like
I don't
now,
even think half the music registered to me. Just like
it was like one of the first things.
I'm guilty of when I watch stuff, I'll start like scene analyzing too. But that's the ex-film student in me that does it, and I don't know. I was just enthralled with this that I ignored all of that. I was just like, ooh, story.
No, I can agree with Hunter on that, because when the movie started, that was one of the first things I noticed was how the music it didn't match the feel. It wasn't bad music. It just didn't match the vibe.
So it did something that later romantic comedies do more often. So this is 95, and I don't remember a lot of movies before this, especially in that genre, doing this. It opens up, and I can't think of the name of the song. I think it's called Everlasting Love, but will be... Yeah, it opens up with that, and I thought,
the old school music.
I thought, this will be great. Yeah, it's like that'll be a good, introduction into what I'm going to get. There's going to be a lot of that kind of music in this, and then it wasn't. Again, it was a lot of almost like Calliope type, like circus, like like music, and I was like, this is not the secret role of Alex Mack. This is a romantic comedy. What am I watching?
But
I'm so confused.
I swear to God, the moment she talks, though, the moment Sandra Bullock speaks, the tone of her voice, the way she speaks, you are immediately like enthralled by her. You are in love. And there's a part later where the Godfather said, not the Godfather, but Jack and
ask of you a favor.
Peter's godfather tells him, look in her eyes, and if you're not in love with her, in 2 seconds, because we were in love with her in 2 minutes, and we were in love with her in seconds, then break up with her, whatever. And it's true. Yeah. Just looking at her, listening to her for just the first line of the film, it's so charming. This movie, the only reason this movie works as well as it does, because I think it's a good movie, but it's a great movie because of her. And I know I'm throwing a lot of praise 100%. On Sandra Bullock here, but
you're right. You're correct.
Yeah, she is this film. This film lives and dies by how much you fall in love with her, and I fell in love with her the moment I watched this movie.
This is why the original premise wouldn't have worked. So you saw the thing about the coma guy.
I could see it being a little creepy, especially in today's climate.
Well, yeah, so that was the thing. Before, because Coma Guy was not the working title, but the title for this movie. And then it became the working title until it became the original title. But before that, the original premise was the same movie, just flipped. It was a woman who fell onto the train tracks. It was a guy who saved her, falls in love with her while she's in a coma.
Oh, that's creepy as hell.
It's creepy, right? It's very creepy. I don't know. I can't describe why. I can't explain why, because the only thing that's flipped is the gender. But the whole movie was written that way, and they could not sell it. The guys who had written it, I think it was a duo who had written it. It was only when somebody went, what if you flipped it? And immediately after they did, Hollywood Pictures signed on. Hollywood Pictures now a division of Disney, which is why now it's on Disney Plus. And there were so many people. I mean, you were talking about, we've talked extensively at this point about how Sandra Bullock is the movie. all the other people who could have played that role, including Demi Moore, for whom it was written. And don't get me wrong, Demi Moore is good.
Her in that role.
Can't do it though. Gina Davis, who again also very good.
Maybe, but no.
Nicole Kidman, nope.
The only
can't see it.
Of those names that you listed, the only person I could see could be Gina Davis. She also has that very warm smile.
She can pull off that, like, I hate saying meek, but that in that character, that's what it kind of like.
Well, I'm
thinking
Beetlejuice, right? Her
Barbara.
She's kind of that kind of Barbara, like, although I think Gina Davis proved in that movie too, though, that she's a little more animated, a little more over the top, and not quite as down to earth and sort of real. And again, they're all actors; they got a range. I'm not saying this is the only person to speak.
Demi Moore is the one that baffles me the most, and this I am not trying to be offensive. I am not trying to offend anybody. I swear to God, and that's always a good way to start a sentence, but. Demi Moore, to me, she's too sexy. I don't know how to say it. She's too seductive. She has a different.
Sounds like the Antonio Banderas show.
Yeah, she's too sexy. Like she's a great actress.
But
There's
a
lot of movies I love her in.
It's the energy she puts out in general, just like the aura.
Maybe it's because I've already seen Sandra Bullock in this movie. Maybe she would have done a killer job, but like. You can't unwatch what you've watched. So there's no one that could have played this part. That's even worse. I'm looking through the names of the people that could have played Jack. None of them. Not a single one.
I was going to say, a lot of other guys that could have been there too. Now, like you said, in romantic comedies, usually the female lead is the more like prominent and the male lead is a little bit interchangeable. But for this role, especially because as opposed to Bill Pullman, you could have had Russell Crowe in the 90s, which is super weird.
That's virtuosity, Russell Crowe.
Yeah, that's virtuosity, Russell Crowe. Harrison Ford, and now we're talking Air Force One Harrison Ford.
Love him, but too old. No offense.
No
offense.
You would have had to have had a totally different female lead at that point.
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze, who is
too buff.
Too buff and too handsome.
Yeah.
I hate to say too handsome, but he really is. Maybe the weirdest one of all, James Spader.
Look, okay, so James Spader
was on the list.
James Spader back then was different than James Spader now, that's for sure. He actually, it's not that he's not handsome now, but he was a very handsome dude, and but he's just too creepy.
It just doesn't work.
Dylan McDermott, fantastic actor, wouldn't have worked.
Well, wait, is it Dylan McDermott or is it Dermot Mulrooney?
I thought it was Derbil McDillett.
You were going to say it, and I want you to say his name because he's your guy.
Pierce Brosnan. No.
Pierce Brosnan
would have worked as Peter, but not as Jack.
Right.
Yeah.
And they got away with Pierce Brosnan in like Mrs. Doubtfire. He fits that kind of lead.
Yeah, the slimy,
male,
handsome.
Not lead, but supporting lead male.
Yeah.
He's way too polished for the role.
He's way
Jack.
too
Jack
polished. Bill Pullman was perfect as Jack. He really was. He was also so incredibly charming. The only other one I like on that list, Dennis Quaid is whatever. But the one who was outright rejected was Matthew McConaughey, and it was because of his accent. Because at the time he only spoke in that kind of southern drawl in the movie set in Chicago. It just wouldn't work. I agree with that. I also think, hold on 1 second. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It was around that time.
Yeah. So
that was 93, I think, right?
94. So
close.
For those of you that don't know, one of Matthew McConaughey's first big acting roles was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, along with Renee Zellweger, as Dave Chappelle would say. And
who the fuck is Renee Zellweger?
Another great romantic comedy actress, obviously, by the way.
Yeah.
But if you've ever watched that film, it was so universally hated and his acting was so over the top. I could see that movie partially being to blame for him not getting this role. Because he was not charming in that. He was interesting. I thought he was interesting. But yeah, no, you couldn't do this movie without these actors. I hate the idea that one day someone might try to remake this, because some things are perfect. Like some movies, they don't hold up because some of the themes have not aged well, or if it's a horror movie or some kind of sci-fi film or action movie, maybe sometimes the effects don't hold up. There is nothing about this movie is timeless. There's nothing in this movie that's offensive. There's nothing in this film that looks bad. It's well shot, it's well acted, and you will never catch lightning in a bottle and have another Sandra Bullock, especially at this stage of her life, doing the most perfect, adorable you've ever seen ever. If you're single, don't watch this movie because you'll hate yourself. If you're married, I know some people that have strong marriages and it doesn't affect them, but if you're a weak man, if you if you're unhappy in your relationship already, maybe don't watch this movie because you will wonder what else is out there. Well, let me tell you right now, friend, it ain't Sandra Bullock. You ain't getting Lucy, all right? So get it out of your head now, Shannon, or people, whoever's out there listening.
I already got her. She's just not Sandra Bullock. But anyway,
Well, and no, I'm not saying like real love or anything like that. Obviously, people fall in love with people all the time. It's not this wife's better than that wife or that. That's ridiculous, obviously. But this character of Lucy, she's too good. I mean, there really is such a thing as too good. There's unbelievable. She's unbelievably sweet. She's unbelievably kind. She's unbelievably cute. There's no part of her that she shows, at least in the film, where you would go, okay, well, there's the other side. There's the thing that's wrong with her. She's not like openly bitter or shitty. She doesn't have opinions that maybe scare you a little bit or wouldn't work well in today's society. She doesn't refer to the civil rights movement as trouble or anything like that. You know,
why am I hearing this? Is like the Chris Farley bit on Weekend Update where it sounds like you're doing the air quote. Maybe he doesn't wear deodorant.
I'm just saying,
I'm flying.
This is a romantic comedy in the sense that like this is what people watch and go, God, I want that in my life. It's just it's that good. But I joke about not watching. Everyone should watch this film. I think they should show this movie at conversion camps. This may, of course, if you're a woman,
defeat the purpose, wouldn't it?
If you're a woman, it could do the opposite. Ugh. All right, never mind. Only straight white couples should watch this film. I think.
I don't think that was a problem. I know it made a lot of money, but I suspect that wasn't a problem.
Well, you know, the weird part is that was the original tagline for it. Only straight white couples should watch this movie, and it didn't do nearly as well.
Hey, he's not in the movie for very long, but there's a black nurse in the hospital who's fucking hilarious. When Peter's just rambling on about stuff, and he walks up and he's like, "I don't know, man." He
Here's
just
stuff.
hands him his box of stuff.
Oh, my shoes.
I also love her boss, and I forget his name.
Yes.
I need to look it up because I'm pretty sure he was on Rock.
I also can't remember his name, but you know where I immediately recognized him from, and this is the weirdest thing. I'm terrible with faces.
He was not
Sarah will
Rock.
watch a movie and go, "Oh, it's that person. It's this person." While you're on his page, tell me I'm right. He is the judge in Liar Liar.
I'm looking it up
He
because
is the main judge that Jim Carrey's character, that Fletcher Reed deals with constantly. Because I remember him specifically, the way that he says order and just shouts it over and over. The first time he spoke to her when they were on the street and he's like messing with his paper and they got their hot dog, he spoke and I went, "That's the judge from Liar Liar." And Sarah goes, "How in the hell?"
Man, for my whole life, I thought it was the same actor. Did you ever see the show Rock?
No.
So, a Fox 23 show starring Charles S. Dutton. One of my favorite.
Fox 23.
Yeah.
It was just the local affiliate version.
No, this was a good show. This was a great show. This was during the same time as In Living Color, as Living Single. There was a lot of great shows on Fox at that time, and Rock was probably one of my favorite ones. And I always thought it was the dad from Rock, and now I've just learned that it's not, and that makes me sad.
That's a shame.
However,
I gotta find this guy's name because again, I know
Jason
I'm right
Bernard.
So it's Jason Bernard, yeah. And he was.
I already see him in robes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's him right there. Boom.
What else was he in? Because I know I've seen him in other things. Wing Commander 4. I didn't see that.
Oh,
there it is. Herman's Head. That's where I remember him from. He was in Herman's Head.
It was something funny you thought you saw in Herman's Head.
Oh, Herman's Head. Yeah.
So it looks like he did a hell of a lot more TV than he did movies. Liar Liar is the last movie he did actually in '97. He passed in '96.
Well, I was gonna say he was also in Empty Nest. He was only in one episode of Empty Nest, but I do remember him in it. I loved Empty Nest. That was also one of my favorite shows growing up.
He died before Liar Liar even came out, and he died a year after while you were sleeping.
Oh, that sucks.
Man,
I
had no idea. Well, he was born in the 30s. He did a lot of TV from 65 all the way up until 96, all the way up till when he passed.
He was in Night Court, which I didn't realize was out in 84. My God.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Night Court was old.
Have you, I know we're on a total tangent. Have you watched any of the new Night Court that's on
I want
Peacock?
to. I haven't yet.
So
it's not bad. I mean, it's kind of milquetoast. It's nowhere near as good as the original, but just the fact that John Larroquette is there is enough.
I was going to say Larroquette's still in it, right? Yeah.
Well, and the girl from Big Bang Theory.
Character.
I don't remember Dan Fielding.
Melissa Rauch. Dan Fielding is the character.
She's charming too.
Good. She's not
charming.
as good in this.
She's not Harry Anderson.
Well, this is weird to say. She's not Harry Anderson. And also, I didn't love The Big Bang Theory by any stretch, but I think she was better in that because she was kind of playing a character. This is it's too much between her and that character. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. So this is completely off topic, and I have to ruin this sweet show, but I just saw that Jason Bernard was in a made-for-TV movie in 1985 called The Rape of Richard Beck. And I'm looking, I was like, whoa, what is that? And tough, blunt Officer Beck feels no compassion for rape victims, thinking that they bring it upon themselves. That is until he himself is raped by a couple of vicious felons, one of whom which says he will make him squeal like a pig. Wow. This came out
made for a TV movie
in 1985.
And don't get me wrong, I remember because I listened, to Violence World. I've talked about on the show a lot, and this is actors, especially kid actors, who worked in a lot of made-for-TV and movie of the week. They used to be called movie of the week type things, and they did a lot of this kind of stuff. And they're talking about how they're almost always based on real headlines. I wonder if this has got to be based on a true story, right? Nobody just makes this up out of nowhere. It's got to be based even loosely on a true story.
I knew it. So the girl that's in this movie while you were sleeping, the young sister, Mary.
Yeah.
I kept looking at her.
I was trying to figure out what I recognized her from later as she was older.
I kept thinking she looks familiar. She's very. Who is she? It's Monica Keena. I did not expect that. Monica Keena. She was in Freddy vs. Jason. That's probably the one most people know her from. Yeah, she's been in. She was in the remake of Night of the Demons, which no one remembers her from. She's a good actress. And wow, that's blowing my mind. That was Monica Keena when she was a little kid. Wow, that is crazy.
She was in 40 Days and Nights too, which is just a bizarre little movie. No, wait, that's not the ones I'm thinking of. I was thinking of 40 Days and 40 Nights. That's the one with
that's Harrison Ford and is it?
No. Josh Hartnett. I'm thinking of the. I don't even know how you classify this movie. I think it's called 40 Days and 40 Nights.
The one where he stops sex. He becomes celibate.
He's got to be
for
celibate for a month.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because it's Shannon Sossaman, I think, is in that movie too. I'm looking it up real quick.
So this is totally different. 40 Days and Nights is a very different. It looks like it's a direct DVD. We're gonna stop talking about that one now.
We are
an asylum film.
Yeah, probably because it's like an apocalyptic disaster of biblical proportions. Ooh.
She also Monica Keena did some voices on Beavis and Butthead.
Doesn't surprise me.
Nice.
She's holy shit, Lindsay! It is an asylum film.
What? Oh, is it really?
It's an asylum film.
I was content to just be like, yeah, probably. No, it is. You're right.
100% is an asylum film. I can tell by the cover, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a film company we will probably never review on this show. The Asylum. Go fall down that rabbit hole.
Here's since we're so far off anyway, here's the premise for 40 Days and Nights. When a massive tectonic shift triggers a tsunami capable of swallowing whole continents, the military creates an ark capable of holding only 50,000 people and the DNA of every species possible while the storm consumes most of the world. Now, if this isn't loosely based on 2012, or at least you didn't pick that up immediately, let me point out that the first line of the wiki entry says 40 Days and Nights is a 2012 disastrous film loosely based on the 2009 film 2012.
Well, no. See, they got that wrong. Okay, I don't want to get on an asylum trip here, but I've already made my feelings about.
How many near apocalypses have we survived?
I've already made my feelings about While You Were Sleeping known, so I feel like I can dip into this for a second. So the Asylum, for those of you who don't know, if you ever went to Blockbuster back in the old days, there was a good chance you saw Asylum films everywhere because what the Asylum was, it was an independent studio basically, or a distribution company that would make movies based on trailers. They didn't even wait for the movie to come out. They based their movies on trailers. So you're missing classic films like Transmorphers, Alien versus Alien
was
versus
there legitimately
Monster.
Foxes on a kayak, or did we make that up?
We made that
the
up.
Other one?
No. But they did make snakes on a train. They did make snakes on a train.
And they would put them right beside the actual release.
Yeah.
So if you couldn't get snakes on a plane, well, snakes on a train is probably as good.
And I asked somebody once that worked at Blockbuster. They kind of let me in. I was like, man, why do you guys have so many Asylum films? And he told me it's so cheap to get these from them that we can stock the shelves with Asylum films. It costs way more to get a legit film like Snakes on a Plane or whatever. So the Asylum is notorious for low budget, awful films, usually starring some collection of Richard Grieco, Amy Weber. There's like a couple people that are in all of them, and it's pretty bad. Anyway, let's get to the reviews. Let's get to the reviews on While You Were Sleeping. It's 2 thumbs up. What, did you not listen? Are you stupid? Like,
what are you, the jonkler?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I will ever in my life find another romantic comedy that I'll like as much of this, and I don't think I'll ever fall in love with anyone as much as Sandra Bullock, but
Can you?
Anyway.
Can you?
No, in all seriousness.
That's the first time I've gotten to hear that.
In all seriousness, I really do love this movie. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did back then. This movie was very influential on my life growing up. I joke about it, but I cannot stress to you how in love with Sandra Bullock I was. We always joke that it's Kate Upton. I got the Kate Upton poster on my wall. That's only because I can't find a poster of Sandra Bullock in While You Were Sleeping. I don't know if I'll ever love anyone as much as I love her. I'm sorry, everybody. There's just her energy. She carries this movie in such a way that I don't think anyone could ever match it again. And even she couldn't, because in all the other romantic comedies she was ever in, which were all really good, she never had the same spark that she had in this movie. This is a one of a kind romantic comedy. It really is special, and I'm trying not to blubber on about it, but I really love this movie, and I really love Sandra Bullock in this film. So it is 100% 2 thumbs up for me. If you've never seen it, please do. It's fantastic. That's all I'll say. I think I've made my feelings well known, Hunter.
Yeah, so again, this is the first time that I've seen this movie. I watched it with my wife, who has seen it a million times, which I feel like is a common trend lately, because
Yes.
the same thing happened with What's Eating Gilbert Grape, even though we haven't gotten to cover it. That's just becoming a regular thing for me for some reason.
Hey, it's a romantic comedy, right? What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
I asked her when it started. I was like, "So is this funny?" And she was like, "Kind of. Sometimes
Moments.
there are parts that are funny.
It's more of
you
a
won't be laughing
drama.
at the end."
No.
Yeah.
No.
But hang on. So you guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Give me one of these.
Yeah, you're good.
So our iPad, I'm just going to do this live on the show. Our iPad upstairs is on Friends while Sarah is sleeping, and my headphones
that's
just
all
suddenly
you can
decided to
hear.
pick that up. So I'm listening to Ross talking right now. I can't hear you guys at all.
Oh.
So I'm going to disconnect this, and then I'll be
Yes.
I'll be. Well, no, wait, hang on. Maybe I can just do this. Come back.
Also,
All right. How about now?
while he's doing that, I also want to mention, I think
There you go.
Allie Walker, I think is her name, is also in this movie as Peter's actual fiance, and that we'll get to the ending here in a second, but that's one of my favorite parts of the movie that I forgot about. But anyway, let's go to Hunter.
Ashley Bartlett Bacon.
Ashley
I got it
Bartlett
back. I
Bacon.
have no idea why that's been on for like half an hour, and suddenly it just randomly picked up. Thanks, Apple. I really enjoyed it. I'm torn, man. This is another one of those times, and I feel like I've had a lot of those lately, where I want an in between. I want a solid thumb up, and then I want one right somewhere where it's like not quite all the way, but
Right.
not down by any stretch.
Right.
Because I want to
You need a
go
thumb and a
somewhere
quarter.
between.
We
Yeah, I want
are
somewhere
not
between
expanding
one
this to a
and
10-point system. A 5-point
No,
system is
it's
fine. Yeah.
The 5-point system is great. But I will say verbally, I wish I could go somewhere in between. I'm going to settle on the 1
Sure.
because I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was great. There were some things that I thought were a little formulaic, and I mean, again, it's a genre film. Of course, it's going to be. But I don't disagree with pretty much any of the stuff that you've said. I think Sandra Bullock is incredible in this. If this was a coming out party, I wouldn't be surprised. Knowing that she did Speed and all that other stuff before that is actually a bit of a surprise, because this feels like this is the one.
This is the one that puts her on the map. Yeah.
Exactly. And then later on, the more defining stuff for her is like Miss Congeniality and sort of differing roles where it's
Practical Magic.
she gets to stretch a little bit. Yeah. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. It was funny. It was heartfelt. It had an interesting premise that is not the kind of thing that's been done a million times before. Again, there were definitely times where I thought, "Oh, this is a little too sitcom-y for a movie." Like, we were just talking about the fiance. At the end of the day, her story didn't matter at all, and I thought that was kind of a shame. I was really hoping there would be more of because she was already married. Like that was the joke, is she's already married. And I'm like, well, then what the hell would that matter?
I forgot about that part when she runs in. It's like he's engaged to me. Like, who are you? I'm her. That's her husband. I'm like, what? I forgot about that.
It's funny, but it's so like if you think about it for more than a second, you're like, what the hell is that?
And it gets dropped. That's my one criticism of the movie is they never follow up on what happens to Peter. Like, what happened?
She kind of ends up being a little bit
because it's Lucy's story. It's not Peter's story.
But still,
she married into his family. Like he's still out there. I mean, she even says like that's where the line comes from. Is he's the one who says, "When did you fall in love with my brother?"
While you were sleeping. Oh.
And then I'm just Peter going, "Oh, she said it. She said the thing."
I did that too. I told Lindsay, I was like, because through fucking tears and snot, I'm like, that's the movie's name. It's all I can say.
I really enjoyed it, and it's not something that I would never not watch again by any stretch. I will totally watch it again. Like I said, I don't think it's perfect by any means. Not that any movie really is. I also don't have the damn close. Damn close. That's why I got two without a question. I think if I had the earlier emotional connection to it, it would probably push it over the edge for me.
Sure.
But being something that I've just seen and again enjoyed, I don't really have any major criticisms other than just kind of the general feel of it at sometimes. And I wonder if other people would be like that. If it's hey, I've seen this 100 times over and I know what I'm getting. Yeah, 2 thumbs. Let's go. I'm again firmly somewhere in between for the official rating. I'm going to go with 1, but nothing down. Nothing I would ever go down on.
I think that's fair. I do think that part. Oh no, I don't think. I know part of the reason I love this movie so much is the nostalgia and is the connection that I made with this film as a kid. It is the love I have of Sandra Bullock. That was a huge driving point. If this was While You Were Sleeping, starring, I don't know, someone else that was popular around that time period, Jennifer Aniston.
Demi Moore, Gina Davis.
If it was
Jennifer Aniston, you wouldn't quite get it 95, right? Friends starts in 90. Well, shit, I don't know. Maybe Friends starts in 93, I think.
And this could be like her coming out party. And Jennifer Aniston would have done a great job.
Friends started in 94, so it would have been very close.
But they would not have carried the movie like Sandra Bullock. That's what puts it over the top for me. Lindsay, what about you?
I mean, 2 thumbs up, hands down. I have watched this movie so many times. Anytime it was on TV during high school or college, I'd stay and watch the whole thing. I go through the entire emotional roller coaster on this film every time. Like, it just makes me feel good. When she's embarrassed, I'm embarrassed. Like, one of those points you're like, are you okay? I was just like curled up in the blanket as far as that goes. But yeah, no, all of it. I adore the grandmother in this. She cracks me up to no end. Like, all of them. I like the film.
Whole family.
I like the characters, the story. I don't care how tropey it is. Like, this is just a feel-good watch for me.
It is. There's nothing about this movie that makes you feel bad. Wait, what?
Yes, but he wasn't Spanish.
Cesar Romero was tall.
I thought you said Cesar Romero was Paul, and I'm like, he's not in this. Was he stupid?
I didn't say he was Paul. I said he was Spanish.
I agree with all that. It's just a really good film. It's just really good. Like you will not hear me gush over any other romantic comedies in my life like this. In fact, I don't know if I can tell you another romantic comedy that I like.
This would definitely be in my top 3. I don't know if I could easily name the other 2, but this is definitely in my top 3 romantic comedies. This is definitely in my top 10 favorite films.
The first one that pops into my head of like, well, what's a romantic comedy that you really liked growing up? Doc Hollywood. I like Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox.
One too.
That was a good one. I really like that one. That's it. I think that's the only romantic comedies they ever made.
Those are it.
That's not true.
It was just those, and that's
all.
Well,
once While You Were Sleeping came out, they just shut down that studio.
They're like, nope, we're done. We don't need anymore.
We can't beat this.
What else could there be to do?
Extras and epilogues. Let's talk about the ending. So, as written out here, on the day of the wedding, just as a priest begins the ceremony, Lucy finally confess. I can't talk because I'm still thinking about her. Finally confesses everything. Yeah, you do it because I'm going to trip over my words all day.
All right, I see. I fucked it up immediately. On the day of the wedding, just as the priest begins the ceremony, Lucy finally confesses everything and tells the family she loves Jack rather than Peter. At this point, Peter's real fiance, Ashley Bartlett Bacon, arrives and demands the wedding be stopped. As the family argues, Lucy slips out unnoticed, unsure of their future. Also important, again, it doesn't say it here. Ashley is actually married, so she's not really his fiance.
Yeah.
Sometime later, while Lucy's at work, Jack places an engagement ring in the token tray of her booth. He enters the booth with most of the Callahan family watching and proposes to her. Jack and Lucy are married, then leave on the CTA train for their honeymoon. Lucy narrates that he fulfilled her dream of going to Florence, Italy, and explains that when Peter asked when she fell in love with Jack, she replied, quote, "It was while you were sleeping."
All right, so for the record, right now, I have tears in my eyes, and I had to stop myself from, like, just hearing it.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's just so sweet. Like, there's not enough good things in the world that are just good. Like, there's always a catch. This movie doesn't have a catch. There's no catch to this movie. You see what you get. It's not going to change your life. Well, it did mine, but it's not like it's so groundbreaking that you're going to say this is fine art. But what it is just a damn good movie that you can watch and feel good about. The epilogue's part of it. So I could see, normally we do this. Hunter talks about a sequel. I talk about the characters. I want to know what happens to Peter. I want to know how Peter, Ashley, and husband play out, because when they're in the hospital and she's like, he says, "I want my stuff back." She says, "What? You don't have anything." And he says, "Your nose." And then she grabs her breast and says, "You want these back too? You paid for them." She's such an awful person, and you kind of realize that he's probably an awful person. I mean, he tells the story about how he knocked the squirrels out of the tree with the rocks before he saved them.
He pretty much says that he was an awful person, but he's going to start new.
So it's just the uncle or the Godfather, like you said, the Godfather character, just getting after him, just going, "You're a putz.
You're a putz."
You're just a putz.
I appreciate that scene so much.
So I want to know what happens to Peter. Does he go back to being who he was before, or does he have a change of heart and he wants to make his life better? I think you could do an absolute sequel to this film. I think her and Jack's story is probably over, except for the fact that maybe there are kids now involved. She has a child, or maybe she is pregnant, and you could definitely play with that, and at the same time showing Peter, maybe the story's about Peter and they're in the background and this is him trying to find love, and some weird wacky things happens to him, and then
you can have your conversation when he asks her.
Yeah, you can
get the rest of the story.
You could have the part in the beginning where he asks her, "Where did you fall in love with him?" Yeah. So I think there's still a lot to do with this, because the characters are so charming. You could bring any of these characters back, and I would want to watch it. I love the characters. I love every character in this film, even the weird guy that tries on women's shoes.
Joe Jr.
Joe Jr. That's, in fact, that's the intro for the show, is the part where he says, "Is this guy bothering you?" And she says, "No." He's like, "Okay," because it looks like he's leaning. That's just,
he's leaning in there.
I love that so much.
I especially loved when there were so many, and again, it's another sitcom thing where there were so many callbacks when Jack goes into the booth at the end and he does the lean in. And I literally went, "He's leaning. He's leaning. He's doing the lean."
You got to do the lean. Yeah.
I think you nailed it, man. I mean, this is absolutely where I would have gone with it. The story, the continuation of the story has got to be on Peter, because so many romantic comedies, the good ones anyway, end on the happily ever after note, and that's what this is.
Yes.
You don't want to continue that story, because to have an entire other movie about those characters means there are problems and there are things that need to be resolved. It's the same sitcom problem of what happens when Jack and Diane finally get together, or Sam and Diane. What happens when Sam and Diane finally get together? What happens when Ross and Rachel finally get together?
Yeah.
Problems.
Right.
Because Jim and Pam, I mean, even The Office did the same thing. They ran into the same issue.
Because that's one of the great things about films, is you can end it on that note. You don't have to continue the story, because the network wants more episodes, and people don't want to watch people in love and be happy. They want to see the journey to get there. They want to see the drama and the problems. When you're in love, nobody wants to watch a movie about two people just in love and happy. Nobody wants that. They want to see how you get there.
Why we have to beg people to come to our house and hang out.
Yes.
I agree. I think the sequel is about Peter, because he is he's an interesting character in that, yes, he kind of sucks, but from the beginning, you don't think he does.
Right.
And he's not an awful person.
And he looks like he wants to change at the end. Like Lucy has touched him.
Just not he's not the dreamboat that he was made out to be. And so, yeah, I like the idea that, like, he's still got to deal with Ashley, who's a great character. He still has, now Jack and Lucy and the rest of the family in his life, so they can help be guiding forces. You got that anchor to the original. And then, yeah, where does he go from there? I think Peter Gallagher is an interesting enough actor, or would have been at that time anyway, to continue on. So yeah, that's totally your sequel.
I think if you want to make it modern, like say if they want to make a sequel today, which I'd say that's stupid, but at the same time, Hollywood's stupid. They got this Jurassic World 4 coming out. I don't know if you heard about that. But
we weren't doing extras and epilogues when Dominion came out.
That's true.
Frankly,
thank God.
Had we been, it would have been like that most recent episode of No Turning Back for you. I would have scripted out an hour-long bitch fest of my own. At which point I would have gone, and if you got anything to add, just do whatever you got to do.
And I would have just been sitting back here
about that movie
playing Tetris. Like, nah, I'm good. Bring Monica Keena back. Like, maybe the story could be about Mary. Mary is now working at a dead-end job. And Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman are still there as, like, the parental figures kind of guiding her now. Do that. Because Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman are both still, like, relatively young, good-looking actors. Bring them back. Bring Peter Gallagher back.
You don't have to call it, like, While You Were Sleeping 2.
No, give it a new name. Make the name specific to her character now.
Exactly. And then we just know, based on the characters and who's in there, it's what you, I guess, call a spiritual sequel. Like, it's a successor, basically. Totally. I can see that, too. I'd be fine with that.
Just don't do what they did with Knives Out and call it Glass Onions, a Knives Out story. Don't call it something a While You Were Sleeping story.
Sleeping story, that's
It's not that. And don't do the same thing. Sorry.
The Knives Out thing doesn't bother me as much, but I really do wish that they had just called it a Benoit Blanc story. I mean, we're okay with doing that for, well, I guess no, we're not, because Hercule Poirot doesn't get that for the... for...
I think it's just Agatha Christie.
That's, I mean, it all goes back to the author there.
But, yeah. Oh, I've never seen Knives Out or Glass Onions.
Knives Out was good. I haven't watched the other one.
Knives Out was very good. They're both really good. I like Knives Out a little better. You can tell that a little more, I don't want to say a little more thought went into it, but it's a little more original because it is the first. By the second one, you kind of know where some of the things are going to go.
But the second one had Bautista.
That's true. He's good in that, too. He's funny.
He's a better actor than The Rock.
The first one, I think what I like, now we're on a totally different thing. He is. You're not wrong. The first... He's anything that Batista ever did in any of the Guardians movies is more entertaining than anything that The Rock ever did in the movies. And this is not just because I'm pissed off at The Rock right now. It's just true.
It's just true.
I mean, it just is a matter of fact. Yeah. Of the Knives Out movies, the first one I think I like better also because it is, it's a little more serious. It's a little more like Clue, where yes, it's got some humorous elements, but like shit's taken pretty seriously. By Glass Onion, it's almost more of a comedy with a mystery tacked onto it. Like, stuff is meant to be very funny, and then you go, also, but what happened to these people? So, but that's another show for another time.
And it does not star Sandra Bullock.
It's true.
Although she did
not
just
in a while, which is a shame.
Well, she did that one.
I want to watch the
Lost
City. Yeah, I still want to see that. I haven't watched it yet.
That was funny.
She was also in Speed 2, which was a bad idea.
It was, Not just being in it, but also the movie in general.
Jason Patrick, man, come on. Anyway.
Is that the one with the boat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never watched.
Okay.
Where if the boat's speed went below 50 knots...
To be fair, it is one of the great subtitles of movies of all time. Right up there with Electric Boogaloo, which means nothing. Cruise Control. Come on, man. That's just good writing right there.
I'm done.
Cruise Control.
I can't do it anymore. When did you? And Hunter would ask. I would ask Hunter, when did you watch Cruise Control? And he would say, was While You Were Sleeping, because I fell asleep during it.
No.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us tonight. The balcony is closed. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new After Dark. It'll be a lot of fun. Horse time on Friday, and then we'll do it all again next week. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Now the
you guys have fun with After Dark.
We're here. We're
Oh
good.
yeah, we'll have to do After Dark without Lindsay, more than likely.
And unless something good happens tomorrow, but I'm not counting.
And hardly anything good ever happens to us, so we are out of here.
You mentioned earlier it is rom-com February, so the plan is for the remainder of the month to do that. We had some ideas and some things laid out. So we started strong with Shannon's favorite, clearly Shannon's favorite.
It's true.
I have been tossing around what I want to do for mine because, man, there are a lot of different movies I like too. I would love to talk about Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, but it is so fucking hard to find on streaming anywhere that you don't have to pay for. So we'll talk about it. I don't know. That's another movie that I really enjoyed when it first came out. I don't know that I would like it as much now. But I am planning on, I would like for us to talk about You've Got Mail. That was another movie I really liked from the 90s when I was younger.
We just have to make sure that when I mentioned Sandra Bullock earlier, that's
just Sleepless in Seattle with email.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If I could think of one woman in the history of romantic comedies that holds a candle to Sandra Bullock, it's Meg Ryan. 100%.
Yeah. I'd love for us to do the original When Harry Met Sally. We were actually going to do that.
Who was in that?
It's another one that is oh God, I can't think of his name now. You
Billy
just
Crystal.
said it. Now I can't think of his name. Billy Crystal. Thank you.
And
names have just run away from me right now.
Her
If you hadn't
face,
asked, I would
her
know
face
without
is
even
in
thinking
my
about
mind.
it. Oh yeah, I can picture her without even thinking about it.
You know why you can do that? Because it's Meg Ryan.
Wait, what? Is it really?
Yeah, it's Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. Yeah.
Are you saying you should have just made February Meg
We
Ryan?
should have just made it Meg Ryan month. Yeah.
I don't know how I don't remember that. That's not even who I was thinking of. Well, I also had like Clueless on there as technically a romantic comedy.
I love that one. I love that one. Oh, that's a spoiler. Won't talk about
Clueless fits a lot of things. It could be a romantic comedy. It could be a back to school movie in a certain way. Yeah. So we got a lot of different things to play with. But yes, it's going to be more of this kind of stuff this month. Between now and next week, I promise you, I will decide what my favorite romantic comedy is because mine's not quite as just right off the top of my head. And maybe we'll make that happen.
A little unexpected there. Everybody expects Shannon Young when it comes Halloween time, but they don't expect Shannon Young the romantic.
Well, but you only have the one. You have one specifically. I've got a bunch that I like, and I got to pick one.
So there are a couple that I genuinely do like a lot of Meg Ryan films. I watched a lot of Meg Ryan films growing up. There was one specifically. It was her and Kevin Kline, and I can't remember the name of it anymore. And they were like each trying to get. They were each cheated on by the other's partner or something, and then they fall. I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's stupid. That's it for us.
That's called "Escape," the Pina Colada song.
I think that was called. I think it was called "The Relationship That Couldn't Slow Down." All right. That's it, guys.
That's a terrible title.
We'll be back tomorrow with After Dark. God, ladies and gentlemen, we have a top 5 tomorrow, but Lindsay won't be there. I don't think Hunter and I could ever.
'Cause it's my birthday.
I don't think we could ever come up with a top 5.
Can you?